Here's the latest installment of Ezekiel Kralen's story about the two little dogs and the crackhead who takes advantage of him. Hope for a tiny cabin springs eternal, Ezekiel Kralen wrote. Email correspondence from December 8th to December 10th. Subject, well, I got that out of the way. I couldn't use a money order because over $1,000. Cashier's check is $10, but the Chase teller waived it as a courtesy and wished me happy holidays. I'll use a money order from now on, since my monthly rent is only $302. Ha ha. And MOs just cost $5 each. Then I zipped on down to SF Peninsula Lawyers Group, just 4 blocks up Market Street. My attorney's assistant, well, one of them, Mei Wu, took the cashier's check and gave me a receipt, which you can view in the attached picture. I told her it's a few pennies over the full amount of 7 months because I rounded it off to the next dollar. I have to praise SFPLG once again. Amazing people and good fortune to have them in my world. I always believe in turning a sad situation into a favorable one, and the doggie's well-being is top priority, so we'll see what comes next in my attempt to have the case against me dropped post-haste and my lovely Brindlekin allowed back indoors. I like the idea of dropping by SFPLG every month, as it keeps the contact alive, rather than not hearing from them for months on end, which definitely spooks me out. Watson wrote, fantastic that you got this done. Nice work. And yes, going by there every month with your rent is a great idea. It keeps the case alive, as you said. So I replied, it shows good faith in the organization that's got my back. Didn't think of that before. And I get a dose of face-to-face sane people once each month. Good medicine. Watson wrote, it's cold, wet, and nasty up here. Guessing it's the same down there. I replied, cold here too. Gray sky all day. No rain yet, but it feels like it's about to come down. My weather app says rain in 9 minutes. Watson wrote, hope doggies are warm and safe. I replied, I sure do too. I just checked AccuWeather.com. It predicts light rain starting in 24 minutes, so it won't be too bad. Another pair of maroon sweaters arrived today. Let's see. Deke's got 3 sweaters already, though refuses to dig them out of his cart for the pups to wear or for me to wash. Soon he'll have 5, not counting the 2 jackets I gave him last night. Having a meth head for a friend, living on the streets and with 2 darling hounds, is no easy calling. I notice a pattern in my Brindlekin world. There's always something new popping up to make me worry about the dogs. Recently fentanyl, and being informed my case may drag out for 3 years. Teaching me not to worry, ergo it's all scripted, according to the rules of my bodhisattva premise. Subject, they're hoping you die before then. Maury exclaimed while ringing up my purchases soon as I told him blah blah Realty could drag out my case for up to 3 years. Okay, the subject is they're hoping you die before then, and the body of the email continues from there. So Maury is the person who says they're hoping you die before then. That hadn't occurred to me, Watson, but Maury's blunt observation made me realize of course they are. Talk about ageism on steroids. I will take a few more days before replying to my attorney as I continue to ponder what to write, but I already have the first line down. Poke the bear, I'm ready to kick it in the butt. Deke dropped by last night, and when I stepped out, he suddenly told me to watch the dogs for a bit, maybe as long as a half hour. He's got to rush off somewhere. I said okay. And as it turned out, he returned less than 15 minutes later. Phew! The pups were soaking wet, but were not shivering in the least. They seemed perfectly happy as I dried them off with some clean rags, then ran back inside to bring them water and dinner. He had another hissy fit, but again it only lasted several minutes, and he calmed down upon another vagrant arriving to keep him company before he nodded off. I made sure the doggies were snug and warm before hitting the sack myself, including putting the new sweaters on and tossing the last 2 squares of that mattress cover over their furry forms, topped off with a large trash bag for additional warmth. He slept by the sealed-off ATM nook until 8:30 a.m., when a handyman woke him up because he needs to do some maintenance in there. So Deke moved his cart and the pups over by the corner and continued to rest in the morning sunlight until a couple of compadres appeared around 10:30. I brought the mutts more water and served them breakfast. As I was about to enter the front gate after dropping off Flacco and Lucky's meal, a burly gay dude leaning against the street sign and diddling with his phone addressed me. "Did you help clean up the sidewalk?" I turned to him and said, "I certainly do." He smiled then and replied, "Great, that's all we ask." Well, that was strange, but I think he saw me feed the dogs beside Deke and his unwieldy shopping cart, so regarded me as a potential problem, re the homeless issue, for his tone of voice was not so much friendly as a warning. Worse yet, around 10 minutes later, Deke called up to me to bring down his gadgets, and when I peeked out the window, that same burly dude looked up at me. IOW, now he knows where I live. So now what, good doctor? I'm going to have rich Republican gay thugs target me? Well, if that's what's going on, perhaps the building manager instructed some of his buddies to intimidate me. I'll find some way to turn this around in my favor. Say, suggest he talk with Deke in a kind manner, get to know him, check out the sweet hounds, etc. When I came back outside to deliver his electronics, Deke was already at the far corner, waiting. He said he had to move on because he doesn't get along with that dude. At first I thought he meant Mr. Burley, but it was actually that annoying skinny meth queen who stole his sandwich the other night and sat down by him again this morning. By the way, Wednesday night, Deke told me he wants to call in to Memo of the Weird and speak to Marshall himself. That would be great or terrible, depending on his mood at the moment, plus the very thought of handing him my phone makes me extremely nervous. I kind of like the idea, though. Sometimes he acquires a phone with cell service, so maybe I'll tell him next time he gets one he can call in, and hopefully the service will still be functioning when next Friday night rolls around. Right before he dials the number, I'll run back upstairs and listen to him live stream. That should be a hoot. Of course, I'll make Marshall aware that Deke might call the station some Friday soon. Watson wrote, "Delay, deny, hope you die is their motto." So I replied, well, gives me another good reason to live a long life when enemy wants me dead. So the little birdie bodhisattva premise tells me. Watson wrote, that would be a hoot. Marshall could definitely handle that. I replied, I know he would. He's patient and compassionate and appreciates character. When Deke said he'd like to call in, he blurted, "You say you've written 6 whole books about me so far, and I can't even speak my own mind about it to your listeners?" But it's not like he's read a single one of my Brindlekin Tales or listened to even one of Marshall's narrations, though I've offered him both several times, including copying a couple of Marshall's readings to his smartphone. Obviously, hearing Marshall's brief comment about my homeless dog-sitting one night with my tent up got Deke's wheels spinning. "Dog-sitting my ass, you fucked that up big time," he added while I focused on the pooch's affections. I didn't really respond to his remark. We went on to another topic, but it just hit me today that it's a great idea to have him call in. I look forward to telling him that. I should also tell him I don't write about dog-sitting per se. That's just Marshall's humorous twist. Addendum. My room stinks of skunkweed right now as I'm drying a pound of it Deke gave me to cure. It's spread out on a large clean frying pan, close to my space heater, turned on low. He got pissed at me when he told me to take it from the cart where it sat tottering along one side and fell to the ground before I even touched the open bag. Very little spilled out, and I picked most of it up, but as you know quite well by now, Deke always seeks one excuse or another to guilt-trip me. Sometimes I think you do that intentionally, just to fuck with me, he snapped, as I opened the gate to bring the musky bud upstairs. He probably got it from a pile of discarded shake somewhere in the outskirts of Hunter's Point. I don't know how he keeps getting away with selling such crappy product. The rain tapered off by the time I stepped out from my morning Java around 9:30. As you know, Watson, I enjoy starting my days slow and peaceful-like. But no, there were Deke and pups right around the corner, sheltered in the Mediterranean restaurant's parklet. Don't know how he does it, but the hounds were dry and warm, sweaters on, and resting by him with Flacco on his lap. He also had a turquoise beach umbrella towering over them all, including the shopping cart. In spite of being stuck out in the rain, Deke was in a mellow disposition, told me he has to move because the cafe's opening and he still hasn't figured where else to go. I asked if he'd like his $50 now, along with his cured marijuana. He said sure, then added, they're going to give me a cabin Monday if I want it. Startled, and delighted to hear this. I replied, "That's fantastic. The city's opening up tiny homes for street people all over the place." Deke queried with a furrowed brow, "How do you know this?" Dumb question in my surmise, because he already knows what I told him in response, because I keep up with the homeless news here in San Francisco. "They're probably going to stick me somewhere at the edge of the city, away from everything," he griped. "I don't think so, Deke. One of the tiny homes locations is on Gough Street, just 4 blocks from here," I replied, "but you can get anywhere fast with public transit, or just walk. It's a good deal, and the dogs need shelter. I hope for God's sake you don't turn it down." He had already moved to below the super-duper awning out front by the time I returned with his moolah and pot, gave me several devices to charge, and asked me to feed and water the mutts. As I was halfway up the stairs to my hovel, I heard him start hollering, though didn't know why. Upon returning with the doggy meals, believe me, I found out. "You ruined my stash. It's all dried out like crumbly shake. Now it's good for nothing." "Well, I'm sorry, Deke. I thought you'd be pleased," I replied. "Pleased? You got to be kidding," he squawked, followed by a litany of expletives rolling off his tongue. Once he calmed down, I explained. "That's how my dealer friends cured their product, because if it's damp it won't light up and mold would grow on it." "Dealer friends," he snapped. "You don't have any dealer friends." "I did back in the 70s, I countered. "I helped them dry the damp buds and leaves, just like I do for you." Then he quacked incessantly like a venomous Daffy Duck while I just stood there, resigned to yet another pointless barrage of false accusations, and let it roll off my back like, well, a duck. Because I know how to play the game to the best advantage of all players involved, which is don't panic, instill calm in a respectful manner. He continued the fusillade of insults while I stood there not saying a word, so I finally interjected, "I'm going now." "You always do that," he railed. "Walk away whenever I have something important to say." So I turned to him halfway toward the gate. "No, I'm listening, but you're just repeating yourself, and I have better things to do right now." "You always act so cool, like it's no big deal," he retorted. I then walked up to him and said, "I'm being calm for your sake instead of acting like a bitch." And with that, I left him to his grumpy little world and returned home, knowing he loves to complain even over the littlest thing. He will always find fault with me, no matter what. While back upstairs, I searched for Tiny Homes San Francisco to see where some are located. Here is one among a slew of articles I found. San Francisco will build dozens of tiny homes for homeless. Quote, "In addition to the tiny homes, city officials are also considering buying more properties to use as homeless housing, including potentially using vacant apartments around the city and opening an RV site," according to the report. Talk about good news. It's really happening. 2 little doggies could be quite happy in a place like that. A while later, I stepped back out to inform Deke that they're setting up tiny homes in various abandoned lots around the city, and many of them are congregated nearby, or reasonably so. Scampy was there now, too, talking to himself with periodic outbursts to whatever specter she was addressing, nicely attired, though, in warm clothes, including a pink quilted jacket. I noticed how placid and actually happy he appeared. What a contrast to earlier in the day, but which makes me suspect his tirades are nothing more than putting me through my paces as my chief bodhisattva guardian. Otherwise, why would he so quickly drop his angst-ridden nonsense if he really believed I fucked things up royally? "Deke," I said, while crouched on one knee to address him beneath the tilted umbrella, "I wish you the very best in getting that cabin. You know my prayers are with you." To which he replied, "Thanks, but I don't know if I can handle all the appointments and other crap I have to go through. I know one lady who already lives in a cabin. She told me it sucks. She only uses it for storage and sleeping over." He paused, then added, much to my amusement, "She is a drama queen." "Sounds like it," I replied. "At least they still allow her to remain there, so she has shelter she can count on, plus 2 free meals a day, a restroom and shower, and a warm refuge for the night." "They said she can get me on SSI," Deke continued, "but I come from a hard-working family that never takes government handouts. I don't think I can accept free money for doing nothing. My mom worked 3 jobs to care for us." "Don't be ridiculous," I exclaimed. "It was much easier to get work back then. You yourself told me many times you don't want a job because it's bullshit," which is true, and you can always get off SSI whenever if you really land a gig you like, but most importantly, you've got 2 sweet doggies to watch over, and they need shelter. At least go through with it till the rainy season ends." I took a deep breath before completing my appeal, nervous as I was that he just might not accept the fantastic offer of a lifetime. You don't have a job right now. This will help you get a leg up. You deserve it. You earned it. No one should be forced to live on the streets. That's just cruel. I was on SSI for decades. Now it's Social Security. Yet I keep busy doing work that satisfies me, writing my stories and speaking out for the homeless. You can do charity work, too, like serving free meals. You used to be a short-order cook in New Orleans, if I recall. I sensed he was about to cut me off, so ended my spiel with the following promise. If you ever need someone to verify you've been a street resident of this city for years, that you didn't just blow in yesterday, I'll be glad to speak up for you. And in any other way, I'll vouch you're a good dude. And when you have your own digs, I'll make sure to keep in touch, visit you, dog sit whenever you need. I'll be happy to keep providing you with an allowance and doggy victuals. Deke then raised his palm in my direction. Okay. I'm sure you will. I know how to deal with this. You don't have to worry. Just stop talking, please. It's weirding me out.